Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show here on STV. The main talking points on tonight's programme. Mark Warburton admits his side might need to be in the Premiership before his players get international recognition. Can Hibs bounce back in the Scottish Cup replay against Inverness tonight? And Muller will move a step closer to 100% fan ownership. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin, and I'm delighted to say our bookroom guest is Motherwell's Keith Lasley. Delighted to have him in here. Lots to talk about, and of course, Ruffy, there was only one story in town yesterday, and it's great that so many of the papers were all over it. Our David Moyes interview seemed to go down a storm. So many little tidbits from it featured in many a national newspaper.
Yep, I thought the interview, although I was part of it, but not asking obviously the relevant questions. I think you asked him 3 or 4 questions, and you just dropped short of him actually committing himself to going to Celtic. But no, I thought it was very good, and he was great. You know, and it was great everything he was telling us. I thought it was a really good point that he made at Everton. That's where they started pretty well down the league, a lot of young players, and he got a lot of joy out of changing it all round, and we all saw what he did there.
Yeah, to be fair, Keith, I dropped short of asking him, do you want the Celtic job, because there's already a manager in it, and there has to be some element of respect here on this one. But managers now, if they find themselves under pressure, you're going to get 3 or 4 other guys lining up, as we see this morning. You know, Neil Lennon, suddenly a bookie's favourite.
Yeah, I think so. I think a club the size of Celtic, there's always going to be speculation. However, you're doing the job. I think Ronnie Dyer would expect that, to be honest, coming to a club of that stature. But you know, it's an interesting one. Obviously, as you say, the job that David Moyes done down south. I think everybody appreciates the job, especially at Everton, as you say, working them up the league and getting them challenging for Champions League. So I would still be surprised, to be honest, if he took on the Celtic job. I would think his ambition and it would be to get back to the Premiership, I would think. But you know, it's still a big job. I know he obviously started his career at Celtic, and as you know, as a prize job, if you like, certainly up here in Champions League football as well. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. But you say, you know, there's obviously a manager in there at the moment, and you know, I'm sure he'll be looking to continue.
Yeah, I think it's a good point that Keith makes, because you know, down south in the Premiership, ideally, if he had his choice, Ruffy, I think David Moyes would be there, but there are only 2 or 3 jobs that I think are potentially on the go. He certainly wouldn't want to go to Tottenham. They've had 12 managers in 15 years. The Southampton job hasn't come up with Ronald Koeman. If he moves on, he's not going to get the Arsenal job. And the other 9 or 10 that you could possibly pinpoint, I think he's been offered all of them.
Yeah, I think that would be the thing that might sway him. I think he touched in the interview as well, the amount of money that English clubs are now being given. And even if you went to a Southampton or whatever, you would have that money to play with. And we've just saw what Leicester's done with their money. So that would maybe be an attraction to him. But I just got for the interview, the Celtic job was a massive job for him. You know, he's got a lot of history at the club. He knows the size of the club. He knows that it is a rebuilding job, and that might just be the thing that he wants to try.
Yep, okay. Let's switch our attention to Rangers getting ready for that big match against Falkirk on Friday. Mark Warburton's been speaking today. Of course, would you believe the Lee Wallace not being involved in the Scotland international setup is still a hot topic of conversation. And the Rangers manager admitted today maybe his side do need to be in the Premiership before the players get that recognition.
But I think, you know, there's a healthy gap at the moment, and I think it's down to the level of the players and the level of consistency and the level of quality they've shown throughout the season. So I've got no doubts about the likes of Lee Wallace. A number of players in the squad can step up. And if it takes going to the Premier League to do that, then so be it. But I've got no doubts about their ability.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm slightly surprised at Lee Wallace not being involved in it, but I wouldn't use it as some media pundits have been to absolutely hammer the Scotland manager because of people who are excluded. He's trying to get the next batch through that can enhance, I would imagine, the international setup to try and get us to that major championships.
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, the way Gordon looks as if he's gone about it, having the 2 squads as well, it seems to me that he's trying to, have it in two parts. Part of it being, the majority of the squad that got them, nearly there, if you like, through the squad, and ones that he trusts, and then maybe a batch of unknowns, or certainly at international level, like a young lad Tierney and Jamie Murphy, who I know well from his time at Motherwell. So it's that blend, I think, and maybe if he can get, maybe in his mind, if he can get 1, 2, 3 of these guys that he feels that can step up into the squad that he's already got in his mind, then it'll have done its job. So I think it's probably a little bit of wait and see from his point of view who can step up, and I'm sure he's looking forward to seeing them at close quarters during training and how they are around about the training base and things like that. And I think he'll use that to try and get up a bit more up close and personal with these guys that he maybe doesn't know as much about.
Yeah, Ruffy, I like Lee Wallace as a player. I like him as a guy as well. Good lad. Doesn't shout from the high heavens, just goes about his job and tries to lead by example. I don't think the door's closed on him at international level, especially when Rangers do come back to the Premiership.
No, I don't think so either, but I just thought it was an ideal opportunity to give not only Lee Wallace but the club a lift, because when you've had a fantastic season and he's had a fantastic season as well, it's always good. A lot of managers used to include a player, just because Keith will tell you when you've got somebody who's an international level, it always causes a wee bit of banter about the dressing room, coming in and where have you been and how well you done if he scores a goal. So I just think Lee Wallace had done enough, to be in the squad, not to play, just bring him in, just to say, look, you've had a great season, let's see what you can do. Keith's touched on it, he's mixing with the players, he's seen the level that he might have to get to be back in the side. But he's been left out, but I'm sure Gordon will introduce him at some time.
Yep, we're going to talk with Keith about Motherwell and fan ownership shortly as well. Tonight, there are a couple of games of real interest. One is a Scottish Cup replay up at Inverness. It's Hibernian trying to pick themselves up, Ruffy, from the disappointment of that League Cup result.
It's a massive one, and Keith again will tell you, to be in the end of a defeat in a cup final, and particularly losing in the last minute, it's a draining experience, and I have to say not a lot of the players will recover from it. Alan Stubbs will have to assess. There was a lot of young players in that Hibs team who, when that final whistle went, hit the deck, and quite rightly so, with the amount of effort they put in. So you have to assess, the players on the night, and he'll be hoping that the experienced players could probably help the young ones through this game.
Yeah, it's psychologically, how do you deal with it? I mean, you're an experienced player. When you get those disappointments, how do you lift the other players?
Yeah, it's difficult. I noticed some of the Hibs players in the press afterwards, and some of them saying it's the lowest they've felt, and comments along those lines. So it's difficult. I think the good thing from Alan Stubbs' point of view is that it is another big game, and that hopefully will take care of itself in terms of the mental side of the players getting themselves up for it. They know it's a massive game, a chance to get to another semi-final, another day at Hampden, and it's up against an Inverness side who aren't in the best of form themselves. So I'm sure Alan Stubbs will be hoping that they can get themselves back up for it, and the motivation's there going up the A9.
Yeah, just before
I'm just going to say the thing about it is you get a goal, and you're up. Yeah. It goes the other way, and everything all starts going through your mind of what happened at the weekend.
Well, can I ask you something? There seems to be a clamour of criticising Anthony Stokes. Is it justified, Ruffy?
No, I just think it's a partnership that, for me, it doesn't look like a real partnership. They're two very individual players who have a different style that they play. For me, they're too far apart. I like two strikers who can work together, but both of them have got individual ability to win a game for you, and that's why they're there.
And just before we get into the break, Keith, got to ask you, you're doing your coaching badges. David Moyes was there coaching you. What was it like for you guys there?
Yeah, it was great. We took in the cup final on Sunday, and then we had the pleasure of watching David at work on the Monday at Hampden, and then at Tory Glen, and it was great. You can just see why these guys have been where they have, the authority to speak with, and the information that they pass on. So invaluable to the likes of myself, who obviously has aspirations of getting into that side of the game, and a pleasure to be in his company and learn as much as I can, really.
Yeah, okay. We're going to talk fan ownership at Motherwell. We'll talk about Motherwell and their top 6 ambitions as well. Keith Lasley is our Bootroom guest. Don't forget you can interact with us. Anything that you've heard on the programme, you might want to give us your comments at Peter and Ruffy on Twitter, facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy, and you can go to peterandruffy.com and catch up with the show at any time you like. Alan Ruff and me, Peter Martin, have our Bootroom guest Keith Lasley talking Motherwell next. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's football show. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin. Our Bootroom guest on tonight's programme is Motherwell's Keith Lasley. Keith, it all looks rosy in the garden. Suddenly, this is a Motherwell side not thinking about playoffs.
Well, I don't know if we're not thinking about it, but it's certainly no. It was certainly something we were couldn't stop thinking about maybe a few weeks ago. But we've managed to get a few results, push ourselves up, a little bit of breathing space. But it's certainly it's something I've not forgotten about. We've still got to focus on getting as many points as we can before this split, and obviously seeing where that takes us. But the last 3 weeks especially certainly given us great hope and encouragement for the rest of the season.
I was going to say it must be a great relief for you if you get into that top 6, considering what you went through with the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I think people forget about the playoffs. Yeah, it ended well, but the experience of going through it and being involved in it, it wasn't much fun, to be honest with you. So, we don't want to be involved in it again, pretty much. So, yes, it's great. As I said, the last few weeks has just pushed us up, and I think we're getting in the top 6 first and foremost. It takes you out of the trouble, never mind what you might achieve then go on to achieve after that. It really is about trying to get yourself. The league's so tight that it really is about trying to guarantee that you're not in the mix come the end of the season down at the wrong end of the table.
Yeah, and the table itself is pleasant viewing for Motherwell fans, as you can see, Keith. Suddenly, you look to the games at the weekend and think, okay, another win, and you never know, you could suddenly find yourself in 5th position. That's the way this league has gone this season. What's been the difference? The owner, Les Hutchison, has mentioned the fact that, of course, the great work with Alan Burrows and, of course, the gaffer, Mark McGee. Yeah,
of course. I think it's a little bit different this time when Mark took over. He took over, obviously, during the season last time. He had 4 or 5 weeks of pre-season to bed in his own idea. So he's maybe not had that time this time, and it's maybe taken him a few weeks and months, if you like, to get his preferred maybe system and starting to living out there. So it's taken time, but I think we're getting there now. And he's been great, and he's really started to get a reaction off the players in these last 5-6 weeks. So long may that continue, and I'm sure he's looking forward to the summer again to then having that time to implement even more of his own ideas and his own thoughts on the team.
Yeah, at a time when you are going through your coaching badges, and you've sampled various managers down through your own career, do you, everybody picks little bits from them, but do you see the value? I mean, Mark McGee's a good coach, but do you actually see, traits that you think, okay, you're not going to learn that in a coaching manual, this is maybe about his personality, his man management? Is that something that you pick up on, or is that even on the course?
No, yeah, I mean, little bits and bobs of that are on the course, but it's probably one thing that I've learned throughout all my coaching courses is sometimes, you can have intricate, training drills and things like that, and I'd imagine, I think Ruffy would back me up, but sometimes it's how the manager gets it across, and do you believe in him first and foremost, in his manner and the way you manage people more than anything. And Mark's great at that. Allied to that, as you said, he can also coach as well, and I think I've been on record before as saying in Mark's first spell, it's certainly the best football I've played in terms of the style of football and the way we played. His first season at Motherwell was unbelievable. So yeah, there's certainly a lot there for me to take on, and it's these little bits, as you say, that you hopefully try and utilise once it's time, and a few years yet hopefully that I make that transition.
And in picking up some of Mark's things, obviously you'll be practising kicking doors in the way. Are you believing that?
No shrinking violet. Terry Butcher was no bad at that as well. So I've had a couple of them. I've had good practice at that. So no, I've had some thorough but fair managers over the years.
Yeah, and with that in mind, though, you mentioned there about that season when you played great football. Do you see I mean, is it difficult to get back to that? Is it all about the players that you have at your disposal, or is he still trying to preach the same ethos?
Yeah, I think a combination of that. I think when he first came, he probably landed on a better squad than we were underperforming basically the year before, and I think he realised that, and he got us into a shape in a certain time. As a young David Clarkson, Ross McCormick, Chris Porter, a lot of guys that a lot of people maybe didn't know at the time, and he managed to come in at a good time and mould them into a good shape. And as I said, the football we played was great. So I think come the summer he'll have more time to recruit as well, which he's not had a real chance. He's brought in one or two, but not had a chance to do that as well. So again, that'll give him time to do that. I think once he does that, I think the future is going to be bright for the club.
Yeah, and with that in mind, Ruffy, suddenly we find ourselves at a point where Les Hutchison has accelerated the process, and the fans have been able to get Motherwell for £1, and 100% fan ownership of the Lanarkshire club is coming up in the next few months, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we have fan ownership at a lot of other clubs lower down the divisions. I think this will be an interesting one. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, this might be the first fan ownership in the top level.
Yeah.
So it will be interesting how they deal, because every time we talk about it, the first thing that always comes up is the financial implications. It's okay taking it over, but where do you take it to in the next level? We keep hearing about clubs running out of money and how for whatever reason how they get that money to keep them going, and I think that's a big question. That every club wants to have somebody there that can help them out.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that in mind as well, Keith, suddenly I think most of the fans are going to realise how difficult it is actually to run a club.
Yeah, I think so. I think, as owners at times they get a bit of stick, and when fans maybe think they don't loosen the purse strings at times, or think they're maybe holding information back in terms of where's the money going and things like that. But I think it's a tough thing to do to run a football club, especially in Scotland at the moment where finances are tight. And that's one thing it will do. It will maybe eventually show the fans that it is a tight ship to run, and one that's difficult on a day-to-day basis. So, but in the bigger picture, it's been a vision for the club for a long time now. It's something that's, I think, is a positive move to have the people that care most about the club. Certainly in charge of the club, in charge of the shares, is hopefully only going to be a good thing for the club in the long term. Yeah,
absolutely. Any chance you can stop turning the telly over, Ruffy, at the back there? I just thought I'd mention it. One of those moments when you get the elephant in the room and you think, I wonder if they're going to mention it. Well, we might as well mention it, because technology does sometimes go wrong on the programme. We've had things falling, Ruffy, as well. I just thought I'd enlighten Keith of that, because he works for other broadcasters from time to time, and it's all kind of a screwed down, but just thought I'd mention that. Okay, let's look to away from the Scottish Cup replay tonight. There is another match that I think is worthy of note. St Johnstone against Ross County. At Saints only lost one of the last 13 against Ross County, but it's a different St Johnstone side now. They're not on a great run.
Yeah, and we spoke about Hibs, how they'll have to pick themselves up for the defeat. I'm sure the Ross County boys will maybe not pick themselves up, but I mean, the adrenaline must have been flowing after the game. I think it'll be a mental thing more than anything else. The highs that they've been on since that game, and it'll still be buzzing through their head, and it'll be difficult to sort of come back down from where they've been. Yeah, I hope they're more responsible than the Partick Thistles team that I played in when we won the League Cup, because we played Aberdeen the next week and got beat 7-2. Yeah, we are, but I don't remember much to tell you the truth, because I think we celebrated every day right up into it. But I think the players are more professional now, and I think they'll get the game over and then do their celebrating at the weekend.
Yeah, I remember that game. I had 7-1 Aberdeen. I was gutted when you got a goal back. As far as Ross County are concerned, I mean, I can't stop reading all the great press. Players that have etched themselves in the history books forever and a day. They will always be associated with that League Cup, the first ever major domestic honour for them.
It's just unbelievable. I think it's And you forget, we were fighting with them right through the season to not finish bottom of the league, and you forget the run that they've went on since then.
Yeah.
That Jim McIntyre's taken them on right through to have a great season in the league again this year, sitting in fourth, I think they are, and then to go and win, a major trophy is just, I think, unbelievable, and probably beyond the wildest dreams of most Ross County fans, I think, to be honest. But it's absolutely fantastic. 2 cups in the Highlands, who would have thought that? And fair play to Jim and Billy, who's, as I said before, the run that they've got that group of players on is not to be underestimated, and I think full credit's got to go to them. And obviously the chairman, who's been the man whose dream has been realised in terms of taking a club all the way from the Highland League through to winning a major trophy at the National Stadium.
Yeah, absolutely. Just briefly, Ruffy, Barcelona against Arsenal. If Barcelona eventually do what we think they're going to do and hammer Arsenal, are we getting close to the end of Arsenal's reign at the Emirates?
Well, not if you listen to him. It's his team. He's built it. He's not going anywhere. So I think it'll be very difficult to move him.
Okay, he tried to get Ruffy to commit and say it's time for Arsenal to go, but he just didn't bite. Okay, we're going to leave now just in case Ruffy turns the television over to another channel, and that's what he was gearing up for. From Keith and myself, thanks for watching.